Hey, it's been a while. Enjoyed the video. Another actual YouTube curated video. Clips from the stream, but I actually recorded another video. I don't want to say I'm back, but I might just be back. Enjoy. Okay, this is going to be a bit of a brain dump, if you will. I'm sort of just going to put out my thoughts on so far how I'm feeling about Wukong, how the game is for me. I've played the game about 10 hours now at this point, so I'm early into it. I've completed the first chapter, and I have some initial thoughts, I guess, that I want to share. This audio clip will just be kind of playing over clips of me playing from my stream. I do want to preface this that this video is not going to be a direct comparison between Elden Ring and Wukong. I think that could be a potential video in the future. You could go very in depth with doing direct compares and comparing systems and that kind of thing. But this is going to be just more of an initial thought on Wukong and how I feel about the game so far after about 10 hours or so. Obviously, the game is being compared to Elden Ring, and also if you look at the Steam numbers that this game has done, it is quite impressive. The concurrent players has, I don't know if it's broken records exactly, but it's been quite impressive. So initial thoughts, of course, just overall so far is that I am enjoying the game. I think I have not played a game like this very seriously, like sat down and really played a game like this in a long time. So first initial thoughts is very much so have enjoyed the first chapter. I've enjoyed the first 10 hours or so. The intro of the game, the starting scene, I unfortunately didn't record any of that footage. I started playing on my laptop on the first night of release, and it's just obviously kind of very stunning. You are playing actually as Wukong, and you kind of go to these godlike figures. You're fighting in the clouds. That initial, just really visually stunning, and you get kind of an intro right into the play style of the game. You get to do some combat. You get to kind of get a feel for all those spells, and it's a great intro. I really like how they did that. I think that's a good way to kind of start. You get visually stunning. You get to jump right into combat. You get to fight at what feels like a very high level of the game. And then, of course, you know, it's part of the story, and you get into the story and all that. So, great intro. That was kind of a great way to kick off the game. So, kind of moving along to some of what I'm feeling after the first 10 hours or so, the first chapter. One thing I've very much enjoyed is the spells. I think the mix of spells is very fun. The idea of collecting or defeating bosses to get specific spells. The immobilize spell is, of course, very good. It feels good, and it feels like an easy way to do a ton of damage. It's like, hey, I've been constantly rolling around and doing a bunch of dodges during this fight. I just need like a breather. Let me use this spell, immobilize, and then just do a bunch of damage. That feels really good, especially as maybe someone that is, I'll admit, is maybe not the best player when it comes to these styles of games. It feels good. It feels like a beginner great spell that I can just use when I need to, like, have a quick breather for 5 seconds, just kind of spam light attack, get some damage in there, and then I can go back to dodging and dealing with the actual boss mechanics. So the spells are fun. I love the idea of killing bosses and then kind of taking their power. That feels good. It feels like rewarding to beat a boss and then be like, hey, I got your power to transform into you, right? Or to be able to use, there's kind of the transformations. There's a few things that are cool in that. So that's great. The next kind of piece, I think, is the difficulty of the bosses. and the scaling around that, I've actually very much enjoyed the difficulty of the bosses. Now, again, this is speaking from someone who's probably poor, I would say, overall when it comes to playing these games. I'm no professional. I'm no Dark Souls expert or enjoyer of these really, really tough games. But the difficulty has been enjoyable. I would say it's been tuned kind of just right. I feel like the bosses always feel beatable. I always feel like even on my first attempt at the boss, I feel like, hey, I have a good chance here. But I know that it's going to take some attempts, right? And I've sat on a couple of the bosses in chapter 1 for maybe as long as an hour. But I haven't really been discouraged, which is good. Like I feel like, hey, I'm always making kind of improvements, or I feel like there's always a chance, right? There's always like, if I play this right, I have a chance to beat this guy. And this kind of plays into the idea of these games where there's this freedom to, you can kind of travel back and be like, hey, I need to like level up and just kill some kind of not low level mobs, but kill some mobs that are just like, hey, just XP. I'm just trying to gain XP and get some additional spark points or talent points and increase my level. And hey, this is going to help me. And I ended up doing that a few times on a few of the bosses where I was like, hey, I have a chance, but I think if I go back and put in a little bit more time into just kind of like farming, I'm gonna have an even better chance and be able to beat the boss. So go getting an extra level or two, an extra couple talent points, some additional HP and things like that. That helps. So I like that style where you kind of have you can beat your head, in the boss. Feel like you have a chance. You're not just kind of beating your head against a wall, but like, hey, I can continue just fighting this boss and I can take him down with my current power, or I can go back, go travel, farm some mobs, get my level up, and then feel like I'll have an even better chance. So there's like different ways to approach that. And I never felt like I got to a boss that was like, I have no chance of beating this guy. Even the bear at the end, even on my first attempt, I was like, whoa, this is a little crazy, but I think I have a chance. And that's kind of very important with the freedom to change the talents. I definitely spent time tweaking my talents based on each boss, which is very cool. I like the idea that I can sort of, I have a say in, okay, I think I can change the talent points here for this boss. I'm going to be using this stance, right? You have the different stances. I'm going to use thrust stance versus kind of the pillar stance versus I'm forgetting the name of the first stance. I haven't used it actually all that much. I've been preferring to use pillar. But regardless, right, I like that idea that you have the freedom to change the talents and, so that you can tweak and continue to fight the boss. Of course, the game, I think, as I mentioned in the beginning, is visually stunning. The game is absolutely visually stunning. I like the meditations. The meditations are very cool where you kind of just sit, you kind of get a break from the gameplay, and you can kind of just view the different maps. Obviously, Chapter 1 was very beautiful. I did get into Chapter 2, totally different landscape, right? You're going from kind of mountain, foresty to desert. And I look forward to seeing what the other chapters hold in terms of the landscape. So overall, I very much enjoyed it. I don't know if I would, if I'm putting it on a scale of 1 to 10 so far, maybe it's in the 7 range or 8 range. But it's been great. So a few things that I was a little bit confused on, maybe not confused on, or just a couple things I noticed, not deal breakers or anything like that, but I did kind of notice, and it was a little bit frustrating, the lack of crafting in resources in the shop. The resources in the shop, as well as kind of the lack of crafting. It felt like there was kind of a finite number of potions in the store that I could get, and when I wanted to, I was trying, obviously there's a finite resource, right? So you want to make attempts on the boss and try to kill it, and once you kind of realize, hey, I think I've got a good chance here, maybe I'll use a couple potions to kind of push me over the edge. Which I like that idea. However, eventually you're going to run out, and you kind of run out of potions, and then you sort of feel like there's no way to, if that's what you need to get over the edge with the boss, it's a little bit frustrating. I felt like there was gathering felt very useless in chapter 1. Now, again, I've gotten into chapter 2, and you get the crafting stuff there, so you can actually start making your own potions, right? So, and obviously from a game design perspective, their mentality was, hey, you don't really need potions. I'm assuming you don't really need potions, or you don't need this stuff to get through chapter 1. It's a nice to have. We'll give you a couple things from the store, but our expectation is you can go through chapter 1 without it, which is fine. It kind of makes gathering feel useless. For the most part. To be fair, I was able to gather stuff, of course, for crafting some armor. And I think I was able to craft a weapon as well in chapter 1. But overall, gathering felt like a little bit useless. Like, I think I gathered pretty much everything I could. I don't even know how much of it I really used. And to be fair, I don't know exactly off the top of my head if I gathered anything that was actually used in crafting the weapons or the armor. Not sure if it was, or maybe if it was just drops off mobs. So anyway, the gathering felt a little bit useless, and the number of potions in the store, the finite number, unable to craft more, crafting, of course, not being a thing. I think there was, and I kept, as I was playing through chapter 1, I kind of kept saying, hey, when am I going to get to the crafting part? Because I knew, I'm like, I have to be able to craft potions. And it never came. It just never ended up happening. And of course, then I got into chapter 2, I realized that's when I'm going to be allowed to. It felt like there could have been some value in having crafting available in chapter 1, not even just from like a scaling perspective or a difficulty perspective, but just from a, hey, I'm gathering all this stuff. I continue to, I see the sparkling thing, the sparkling plant. I'm going to go gather it. Did I waste my time here? And now, again, this may change as it's like, hey, I was gathering all this stuff, and eventually now, as I progress through the game, I'm going to use all of that. But that's what I'm kind of wondering about. Did I gather a bunch of stuff in the first zone in chapter 1, and is it going to be used and leveraged down the line in the future chapters, like with the crafting stuff, or am I going to only craft things that I'm gathering from the future zones? I hope what I'm saying is making sense, but it's not a huge gripe, but that was something I for sure noticed. So I ended up talking way longer here than I had anticipated. I was expecting me to talk for about 5 minutes at the most. It looks like I've recorded about 13 minutes of just brain dump, talking through all of this stuff. So maybe I had a little bit more thoughts than I was anticipating. I will very likely end up doing more. Of course, it's just as an initial thought. There's hype around the game. I wanted to get a video out, just kind of, hey, I am playing this, and here's my thoughts. But once I kind of play through the entire thing, I think I'll do a re-review, if you will. I don't like the idea that this is a game review. It's really not. It's just a, hey, I've been playing it. Here's my thoughts. If you care to listen, great. If not, that's fine too. That's sort of my mentality. So, yeah, I think that kind of wraps up my thoughts.